Since ChatGPT, I've not come across a single tool that has saved me as much time in my working day as this tool here. This is Super Whisper, and it is not what I expected it to be. I've been using dictation instead of typing to speed up because most people will be able to type somewhere between 40 and 50 words a minute, and most people speak somewhere between 120 and 160 words per minute. So I was always a big fan of dictation. And I didn't think that a tool like this would actually make that much of a difference. Quite frankly, I ignored it for too long. When I did jump into it, I realized that this is not just a dictation tool. It is a completely different beast, and I was quite blown away by it. Let's first start with the basic feature of dictation. How it basically works is if you go into something like this and you press a button, then you can just start to record what you say. What I really want to do here is produce a video that helps people see the features of Super Whisper and how it particularly compares to WhisperFlow, which I first came across originally, but I didn't realize they're not actually the same. They're completely different products with a vastly different set of features and use cases. And you press the button and then it does this for you. And you can see it's actually spelt these correctly in their form as one word because it knows that kind of vocabulary. It's done the spelling correctly. These here are different presets. So rather than having one dictation mode, you can have many different dictation modes. So you can see that I've got one for US English and UK English. I've also got ones for creating prompts, creating notes, creating emails, where I've got my own personal baked in prompts. So I get to choose those instructions. And this is the beauty of Super Whisper over other tools. The second big advantage of this is you can run this completely locally. So none of the data gets sent to other parties. None of the data gets sent to the cloud unless you choose to do that. Now you might be thinking, great, but what is the difference between that and either the native dictation or other dictation tools? So the two I want to just have a quick look at. One is the native dictation. So here, and I'm going to hit allow. You can see I don't use this very often. Okay. Is this working? Can you hear me? If I were to create a paragraph of a shopping list and I want 3 onions, 2 apples, 1 tomato, a tin of tomatoes, and olive oil, what would you give me? As you can see, it just literally did what I said. It didn't really punctuate that. It certainly didn't create a list. And even when I asked a question at the end, it did not give me a question mark. If I use another dictation method, and I'm going to use WhisperFlow in this situation, you'll see a little bubble down here. And this is another dictation tool called WhisperFlow, which I'll talk to you about in a moment. And when I press a button, you'll see that this increases. So if I go, I want to create a shopping list for making bolognese, and I want 500 grams of mince, 2 tins of chopped tomatoes, large onion, garlic, oregano, olive oil, and a bottle of red wine. You can see that what it's done here is it is automatically formatted this in a list format, because essentially what it's doing is taking what I've said, it's passing it to an AI model, contextually understanding what it is I'm looking for, and then reproducing it in a more valid format. And this makes things a lot better. If I was to do something like I want to write an email about something, then it could then format it in an email format. Or if I'm writing a text message or a Slack message and I want it to be short and concise, has that contextual understanding and will reproduce it in that way. The biggest mistake I made was thinking that the two lead contenders, which is WhisperFlow and Super Whisper, basically the same thing. And it turns out they're very different. Let's start with WhisperFlow, which is the first tool that I have been using. And you can see that I've been using it for a fair amount of time. You can see some of my average stats here. You can go into my history. You can see all my conversations. It's all saved essentially in the cloud. But basically, this is a dictation tool. It's a very good dictation tool. The UI is very simple. This little bubble down the bottom that just pops up when it's active. It's nice and clean. It doesn't interfere with the rest of what you're doing. They've done a lot of this UI and UX well. So from a user experience perspective, this is really simple and easy to use out the box. And this is why I think a lot of people would really like this tool. Even though I recommend the other one, I think there are a lot of people who would fall into this camp and would really like it because of just how it works out of the box. On the other hand, Super Whisper has a lot more features. There's a lot more customizability on how it works. One of the key areas is the different modes that you can create. You can choose what model you want to use with each mode, whether you want it to automatically enter this mode with a certain app that you're using, and you can customize the prompts that go in with it. So if I'm wanting to create a list like this in maybe a notes app, or I'm writing an email or something like that, I can customize that prompt to behave exactly as I want, and I can decide which models I want to use. Now, Super Whisper is privacy first, so it will operate completely locally, so offline, with local models. And that means none of your data gets sent to the cloud. So if privacy is your principal concern, then this is the only tool that is really going to work for you. Even the native dictation tools in things like either Siri or in Microsoft, they all get sent for processing as well. There are much deeper features to what you can do in here, which I'll not go into in this video, but I just want to highlight we're not comparing the same capabilities here. There are basically two core trade-offs. With WhisperFlow, or sometimes just referred to as Flow, convenience is king. They're trying to make this as simple and easy to use, so they don't allow you to customize anything, edit anything, and all of it is sent up to the cloud so that it can be synced across different devices quite well, and it's just processed for you well out of the box. The two cons with this approach is one is the lack of customization. It's difficult to keep that authentic voice. And the second one is privacy. And if you type in WhisperFlow into Google, you will of course get the WhisperFlow website as the first search term, but the second one is a very extensive Reddit conversation highlighting some very concerning elements. I've gone through it a bit. I can do this in a future video if you want. Some of it is difficult to substantiate what is being said. Some of it definitely does raise some eyebrows. If you're privacy first, you will not be using this particular tool, particularly with the way that things seem to be handled at the moment. But if you're not particularly fussed with what you're doing and whatever it is you're using to dictate isn't particularly sensitive, you might not really care too much about this. Pricing wise, if we go to the pricing here, now this is in pounds and it's defaulted to annual. Let's put it to monthly so we can compare. This is £15 per month. In the US, it is actually $15, not the dollar equivalent of £15. So it's 15 per month. And you've got to decide, is that worth it versus the native dictation? And that's the question I came to. And for me, I actually thought it was worth it until I found Super Whisper. And if we go to this one here, we go down to the pricing for all the extra features we get, it is $8.49 a month or a lifetime for $2.49. And this is quite an incredible deal if you find this to be really useful. You could try it out for free, and both of them will give a free tier. You can try it out for a month. This price here, if you don't want any recurring costs, yes, it is an upfront investment, absolutely, and you've really got to make sure that you will use the tool before investing in this. But for someone like myself who uses this constantly and it is saving me hours a day, this was a no-brainer. And if you got access to a educational email, perhaps you're a student or a member of staff within an educational institution like a .edu in the US or .ac.uk in the UK, then there are places you can get an extra 40% off of this as well. But yeah, this is it. I would highly recommend trying either of these out, depending on where your priorities lie. I would definitely recommend this to anyone. It has made such a difference to me. If you want me to do a deep dive into how you create these different models and personalize them, or some of the more advanced features that you can do either with running locally or even using your own models and knowledge bases with it, then I can certainly go through that. Some of this Reddit conversation as to what is a legitimate concern versus what's largely unsubstantiated. This approach to speaking rather than typing is an absolute game changer.